Good evening, I'm Jonathan Higgins.
I'm Rich Carlson.
And we are the Scanner Guys. Good evening and welcome to the show. We're going to talk about a radio that we never talk about at all.
Yeah, it's very obscure.
Yeah, we don't talk about it much at all. And tonight we're going to talk about it in detail. That's the Uniden Bearcat BC125AT. Now, why do we give this radio so much attention?
Well, we got to talk about it because it's being discontinued, or it's not being discontinued.
No, it's not being discontinued. For me, the radio is great for rail fanning. It's a simple scanner to program. When Uniden came out with it back in, I don't know how long it's been, but
2012, I think.
Yeah, when they came out, I said, this is the perfect radio for rail fanning. Mm-hmm. It's simple to program. Yep. It's got alpha tag display. It's got PL tone. It's got some really cool features that were basically on higher end radios. And it's cheap. Yep. That's everything works. Price, size. I mean, that's the other thing too. Yeah, the size for
compact. Yeah, it's little. Fits in your shirt pocket. It fits in your camera case. It's a go anywhere scanner.
Yeah, 2 AA batteries. Yep. So it doesn't take a boatload of batteries. Yep. It lasts pretty long on those AA batteries. It's not known as a battery drainer radio.
Yeah, the 325, which shares a case, is because it's going through trunking, and trunking does take more battery power. But with a conventional only radio like this, the batteries last a lot longer.
Yeah, we're very impressed with it. A lot of you are probably wondering, why do we put so much attention to this radio? And those are many of the reasons why, because it's just a great radio for the price. It's able to do a lot. It's got a really nice backlight, as Joe M. states. Yep. It's got a really nice display. It's not too busy, not too crazy. I just really feel like this was a well thought out portable radio. You've got the functionality of it, where it doesn't have a ton of buttons. It has a function button, but it's clearly outlined, what the function things are on the keypad. I mean, it's not a big mystery radio where you've got these secret function. Yeah.
It's
keys.
Easy enough to figure out just by looking at it and playing with it. You play with it for a few minutes and oh, okay, I get it. And you go on. You don't have to study and have a doctorate degree in scanners to use the darn thing.
Yeah, I was just very impressed with the radio when it came out. I knew this was going to be the ultimate radio for rail fans, and sure enough, it was. At Scanner Master, when we had the rail fan package, we sold tons of them. That was something that I created for Scanner Master. It had a great package where you were provided with all the power connectors. You were provided with an antenna that was for the band, a VHF antenna. I even created a local directory. So if, let's say, you're from Massachusetts, I gave you frequencies from all over New England. And I mean, it was certainly a huge seller for Scanner Master. Still is. I mean, we get a good number of people that buy it, and it's great for also aviation, Rich. I mean, you can talk about that firsthand.
Oh, absolutely. I spend a lot of time. I spend as much time chasing airplanes as I do trains. They're a little bit harder to catch because my arms get tired. But I've been going out to the airport, and I'll put this on the tower frequency and the ground frequency to scan a couple channels, and it's ideal. And it really works well, and it works great on military aircraft as well.
Yeah, so this is definitely the radio to take a look at. So yes, it doesn't do trunking, doesn't do digital, but it's a phenomenal radio. And tonight, that's what our show's about. We're gonna tell you about the 125 AT and why you should have this in the arsenal of radios. I mean, this is definitely like if you're looking for a radio to do aviation, rail fanning, maritime monitoring,
Yep.
or you have a ton of stuff that's analog conventional around you and you can use an analog conventional radio, this is the route to go. So let's take a look at tonight's slideshow presentation. We're talking about the 125AT, the ultimate transportation monitoring scanner. So this is going to be a good show. So let's dive into it right now. We want to remind you to follow, like, and subscribe to all of our social media, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram at The Scanner Guys. Check out our blog at thescannerguyshow.com. And make sure you follow, like, and subscribe. And, of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel right now. You're watching us right here on the channel. Along with our blog, you can check out our newsletter. Sign up for that through the website, thescannerguyshow.com. And we have hats, t-shirts, coffee mugs, hoodies. We have a tote bag now. So we've got all this merch to be able to help us do more things in the future with the channel. It helps us pay the bills, keep the lights on, for the show. I mean, this is a getting to be a bigger operation as our audience grows, and we want to be able to do more things, maybe do some live things on the road.
Yep.
So we're really looking forward to doing things, maybe something at Dayton. I mean, we are definitely trying to figure out some things that we can do with meet and greets with the audience and so on. So let's dive into this. So this is the 125AT, the ultimate transportation monitoring scanner. And as always, the Scanner Guys are brought to you by Scanner Master. And of course, you can pick up this radio at Scanner Master. Let's take a look at
It's in stock too.
Yeah, it's in stock. So definitely place that order if you're interested in this scanner. There's an affiliate link down below in the description of this broadcast. Click that. If you purchase the radio through that affiliate link, it'll throw a couple of dollars our way, and we'll appreciate that. So let's go over the basics, Rich. It's a 500 channel scanner, which means there's 10 banks, 50 channels per bank. Nice, sweet spot for an analog conventional radio. Not too many channels, just enough. I mean, you could, like you've said, program the 97 railroad frequencies in bank 1 and bank 2, and then the channel number corresponds with the railroad number.
Yeah, and you still got plenty of room for other stuff in there. You can do the same thing for marine channels if you want, if you don't want to use the server search. And even if you do that, you still have hundreds of channels available too.
I mean, look at the coverage here. A big news today. Did you hear about CB radio? They're going to have modulation of FM. You can monitor CB on this radio. It starts at 25, goes up to 54. There's a little bit of our aviation band at 108 to 174, plus the railroads are in there as well. And then you've got the next band up, which is the 225.
Yeah, the military aircraft band. Yep.
To 380. And then, of course, you've got the classic UHF 400 to 525.
Yeah, it covers the basic scanner frequencies. It doesn't do 800, but then again, the vast majority of things on 7 and 800 and 900 megahertz these days are digital and trunking, which this scanner is not intended to do. So there really is no reason to have the 800 bands on there. So it covers the basic scanner bands that are almost all analog.
Key features. We've talked about this last week. Close call. This radio is capable of doing close call. The big thing that I like is the PL tone capability with CT, CSS, and DCS. Now, the other thing that you can use this radio for, if you go to NASCAR races, those PL tones are going to be handy. It's an RF mess when you're at a NASCAR race. It's all UHF. There's tons of interference. So when you program in the frequencies for the various drivers, put it in PL search. You want to search that, and as soon as it comes up and you recognize a familiar voice, store it. You're going to thank us later.
Or if you already have the PLs, program the PLs before you go. You're right, there is a ton of interference at a race because there are hundreds of transmitters and there's all kinds of intermod, there's all kinds of crazy nonsense going on. So the PL tones help alleviate a lot of those issues by allowing you to get just your target and exclude the rest of the crud that's out there.
The other thing, $100 scanner. Well, this is a little bit over $100.
Yeah.
It's got alpha tag display. That's a key thing if you're programming a slew of frequencies. The great thing about it, if you're a rail fan or an aviation enthusiast, you can program in the known frequencies and store in an alpha tag in there. Most aviation enthusiasts and rail fans are not scanner users. They are rail fans. They're aviation enthusiasts. So the good thing about this radio is if they learn how to program it, they can program the frequency and then they can program an alpha tag that's associated with it. So they're not memorizing frequencies. They know that 160.92 is Amtrak Road, if that's the road channel in their area. I mean, they don't have to guess, well, what was channel 20 in the radio? They have an alpha tag display. It works wonders.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a huge deal because, just like you said, you don't care what the frequency is, you care what the channel is. And that is a humongous feature for such a low-price radio.
So here's our service searches. You don't know. You go out in the field, you have no clue what frequencies are. Let's say you're on a road trip and you're a rail fan. So you see this yard and you're like, wow, there's tons of activity. You see them doing yard moves. They're using two-way radios. You can either, one, use close call, or two, put the radio into the railroad service search and discover the frequency that way. You have that ability. Or if you're just searching out for new frequencies, you can do that with the railroad service search. And we also have, the air bands taken care of there with military and civil air. And then maritime. All service searches that are just a few clicks of a button with this radio.
Yeah, and I use the service search all the time if I'm in an area that I'm not familiar with, and I just pop it in the railroad service search at service search number 5, which you and I know that one by heart because we use it all the time. And since there's basically only 97 channels, it's really easy to find your target because it's only scanning a small subset of frequencies. So chances are you're going to get that guy if you're close enough to him.
That's for sure. So let's continue on with the slideshow. In the box. So this is a question we get all the time. People ask, what does the radio come with? Well, the 125AT, of course, it has a scanner. It has a belt clip. It has the standard wideband rubber duck antenna. It comes with 2 rechargeable batteries. It has the USB cable and the belt, the wrist strap. Now with the USB cable, it's dual function. One, it's going to power your radio if you have a USB AC or DC adapter. The other thing, it's a programming cable. It allows you to connect the scanner up to a Windows computer. And somebody asked about the software. We're going to talk about that a little bit. But William, it takes the Butel ARC125AT, which is available from Scanner Master. So you can program this by computer. It makes it a lot easier for one, programming it, the frequencies, and two, putting in those alpha tags. So definitely, we're going to go over that a little bit more. And this radio,
even though there's only 500 channels, it is a lot easier to do with software. You can do this for a couple hours and load up a couple hundred channels with names, or you can do this for 10 minutes and be done with it.
Or you can import some of the information in from Radio Reference, and you can tweak, and it may take you even less time than doing it, typing it all out.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're looking at service searches here. Look, smack right in the middle is the transportation ones. You got maritime on 4. Rich, you mentioned number 5, which is the railroads. Civil air on 6, and then mill air on 7.
Yeah, and that mill air service search is great because it's such a wide range of frequencies. It's very difficult to search through, and this just makes it a lot easier. And it does actually receive very well at military aircraft. And I live in an area where there's a lot of military aviation going on, and it works very, very well for that.
And then, of course, we have the other service searches, police, fire, EMS, ham radio, which if you're a ham enthusiast and you want to be able to monitor other channels and not have your ham radio on scan, you could get the 125AT as long as they're using analog. And then, of course, we mentioned CB radio, big news, for many of you. Their modulation has been AM, but they've gotten approved to do FM. And then we've talked about number 9 a lot, Rich. And you hear a lot of interesting things on number 9. Rich, tell us a little bit about that.
All right, so FRS, GMRS, and MERS. FRS stands for Family Radio Service, and then GMRS is General Mobile Radio Service, and then MERS is the Multi-Use Radio Service. And these are basically radios that FRS and MERS can be used by anybody with no license for just about anything. GMRS does require a license, but they share a lot of the frequencies with FRS. And those are the below bubble pack radios. You hear them, a lot of people working in stores will have FRS radios. Families will have them. You go to Disney World and the FRS channels are hopping.
Campgrounds,
just about anywhere where you're going to have a lot of people and they need to talk to each other, you're going to hear FRS radios. And GMRS, they're supposed to be used by individuals, but there are still a lot of businesses that use that.
And then racing, so it'll search down the band. What we recommend is if you are going to the racetrack and you weren't able to search out the frequencies online, go to the Racing Electronics Hauler. Now, they're going to provide you a list of frequencies for the weekend. It will not include the PL tones. So when you do program in that frequency, make sure it's in PL search so you can discover it and store it. You want to eliminate as much interference as possible. That's going to allow you to tighten up that squelch a little bit if it's a larger track and not get a lot of static, bursts from interference. So definitely you want to do that. I wouldn't recommend the racing search as much because you have 40, depending on the race, you could have up to 40 drivers, and you're going to have to be listening for the voice. I would say spend a couple bucks. Go to the Racing Electronics Hauler, get at least the frequency list, pop in your handful of drivers, and then store the PL tones in there. So all good stuff. I mean, this radio is definitely an action-packed radio for transportation. As you see there, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7 covers it all. All right, so we're going to go into the layout of the radio. Yeah. You're going to notice that this radio has got a keypad and essential buttons. Looking at the top, we've got, of course, the B and C connector, which we're all familiar with, the headphone jack. And then we have a scroll knob that has multifunction. You can just scroll, and let's say you have the radio on hold. You can scroll through the frequencies programmed in. You can push down and turn. That'll adjust the volume. Now, a lot of people mistaken with this radio, they just go and start turning. Yeah. That's not going to do the volume. You got to push down and turn, and then squelch adjustment requires function and then push down and turn, and then you'll adjust the squelch. Yeah, typically, go ahead.
The nice thing about the squelch control is that's the thing that you're going to set it once and pretty much leave it where it's at. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, you're right that having to press the button to adjust the volume like that is really confusing for a lot of people who just aren't used to that. But once they get it, they're like, okay, I can get it. I understand.
Yeah, and this is certainly, a great radio. As you can see, we have, an overhead view of the radio, and then we have the radio on its side to outline all the key buttons. So we'll start at the bottom and work our way across up to the top. So many of you are familiar with the hold button. So if the radio's in scan, you're going to press the hold button. Yeah. When you have it,
easier if you turn your computer to the side so the buttons are level.
Yes. This is how it was in the manual, so I wasn't recreating the. I had to do some work on the next slide where I had to do some labeling, but this was in the manual. This, I was like, I'm not recreating this. I'm going to try to do the best for this. So the hold button actually does two things. It'll put the radio on hold, so it'll stay on the channel. And then if you hit the function button and then hold, it'll turn on the variations of the close call. I mean, there's several flavors too.
Oh yeah, and actually, and you'll notice that a lot of the buttons, if you take a look at the radio, this is a black and white picture, but if you take a look at the radio up close or the color picture of the keyboard, you'll notice that some of the buttons have orange print on them, and those match the color of the function button. So when you press the function button and then one of the other buttons, whatever is the orange print on that button is that particular feature. So like on this one, if you look at it, the hold button has the close call in orange, so it turns on and off the close call.
And you're going to have a couple of menu options there with the close call. So you're going to be using your scroll knob, and then once you select what you want, you will then hit the E button, which is kind of like, you think of the E button as almost like enter on your computer.
Yeah.
So the next button is scan. That's pretty self-explanatory. So when you're in hold, press scan. Now the other button that we've kind of hinted towards, Rich, is the search and the service search.
Right. Yep. So if you hit the search button, that'll bring you into the search menu. So you can put in a couple of frequencies to do a limit search or a range search. And then if you press the function button first and then the search button, that brings you into the service search. And when you get into that service search, you can turn on and off the different service types or service searches by pressing the number that's assigned to it. So we all know that railroad is number 5. So if you want to turn on the railroad service search, press the number 5 button. It toggles it from on to off, off to on. So you can turn off all the other service searches and have just the railroad, or you can do the railroad and the marine, or the railroad and the aircraft, or whatever combination you want. We normally recommend that you limit yourself to like 1 or 2 different service searches at a time. Most of the time, you're only going to have one. If you're on the river, you're going to have the marine service search. If you're on the railroad, along the tracks, you're going to have the railroad. So go take the one you want.
Yeah, let me go back to the slide so we can look at that again. The lockout is also known in this day and age with certain scanners as the avoid button. Yeah. So the lockout is the LO, so that'll allow you to lock out a button. Lock out a channel. Right. You'll use the button to lock out. So let's say there's a channel that has something going on, or there's a ton of interference. You can press the lockout button once and it'll do a temporary lockout, which is handy. So the next time you cycle through turning your radio back on, it'll restore that lockout. Also, it's also got a lock on the screen as well. Yeah. So you could do a keypad lock. So let's say you tend to get yourself into some trouble when you're walking with this on your hip, pressing buttons. You think the scanner's scanning, but you bump the hold button, so then it's not. I mean, you can do the lockout button. The lockout button has the keypad lock, right, and it'll somewhat prevent getting yourself into some trouble.
Yeah, it just since the buttons do stick out, it's relatively easy to accidentally hit a button. And when you hit a button, that'll stop the scanner from doing what it's supposed to be doing because it's expecting you to give it a command. So that allows you. So the keypad lock is a great feature. But the other thing, too, is remember how to turn it off, because that's a call we get about once every week or so, is my keypad's locked and I can't unlock it, and they don't know how to unlock the keypad.
Same way you lock it. Just hit the function button, and then the lock button will lock it. And to unlock it, hit that function button again, and then it'll be all set. Now, the very important button that you should definitely know when you purchase the 125AT is the power button. Now, unlike some traditional portable radios that you probably have had in the past from Radio Shack and GRE, typically the power was the knob. You would turn the volume knob, it would click, and then it would power the radio. With this particular radio, it's actually a power up by the button. So you press that button, it will power up the radio. Also, while it's on, you can press that, give it a quick press, and it'll turn on the back light. But the thing with turning on that backlight, you don't want to leave it on all the time because what will it do, Rich?
It'll drain the batteries. So that is a relatively bright keyboard display. And when that's on, it's sucking up battery power. So turn it on and then turn it off. Turn it on, turn it off.
Definitely a key thing there. So now we're going to get into the keypad here, where there's a bunch of function buttons, and they're clearly marked.
Yeah.
Like if you want to turn priority on a particular channel, or not the channel, but the actual radio, so the priority channels are enabled, you would hit the function button and then the number 1 button, and that would enable priority. Now the next button up, which occasionally when we're out, we see some weather that's rolling through, maybe while we're rail fanning or aviation time at the airport. We're thinking, I don't like those clouds. I'm wondering if we're getting a storm. Yep. So what you can do is just press the function button and then the WX, which is the button number 3. Yep. And then you can listen to NOAA weather radio and see what's going on weather-wise.
Yeah, that's a great feature, and then it also allows you to go into weather alert. So if you want to set it up for weather alert or just to listen to the local weather channel, you can do it either way. So that is a neat feature if you need to, want to shut it down and use it as like an alert receiver.
Now the other thing that we have on the screen, those pesky beeps, as you can hear Rich using it. Yeah. And if you're not a fan of that, or you want to monitor, your scanner relatively quietly, you're on the train or whatever, and you're able to monitor it very low, you may want to turn off the beeps. And you can easily do that by hitting the function button and then the number 7. It'll make your radio nice and quiet from beeps. You can turn it back on if you wish, just by hitting the function button and then the number 7 again.
Yeah, I just turned off my keypad. I couldn't hear it because of the headphones, but I just turned off the keypad beep. So.
All right, we'll continue going across the keypad here. So, of course, we mentioned the big E, which is a lot of times the enter. When you have something highlighted in the menu, you're going to hit the E button, and then that's going to go to that menu and then continue on. Also, that big E also has PGM. So you can basically press the function button and then the big E where it says program and go into the program mode. We're actually going to, this radio is simple enough, we're actually going to tell you how to program it tonight.
Yeah, it's easy. It's easy, and Ron, it's about $130 is the cost on it.
And then, of course, all the other buttons are pretty self-explanatory. We've talked about the function button a ton. Now you see that there's left and right cursors. Now on the number 4 and the number 6, that's so you're able to move to the next character when you're programming in an alpha tag. We're gonna explain that a little bit more in the programming portion of the broadcast. So let's continue on here. This is the display, relatively simple. We'll do this fairly quickly. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go down the left side, and then we'll go across and then up and then to the top. So of course the channel name, which will be the alpha tag that you program, will be right here. You can see my cursor moving back and forth. And then channel number and frequency. So it shows CH and then it shows 001. That means it's channel 1. The frequency that we programmed in here was 162.525. The next thing is the big P. That indicates that priority is enabled. And then this one here, show banks and enabled banks. Right here you can see bank BNK, and then you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 0. 0 being 10. So if you don't see a number there, the bank is not turned on. So if you see the number present there, that means the bank is turned on. Rich, let's go. I'm going to let you go across the bottom.
Okay, so then the mode, frequency and modulation. Most channels these days are going to be NFM or narrow FM, but some of them on low band or in the weather channels might be just straight FM, and aviation channels will show AM. It doesn't do digital, so you won't have to worry about that. So if you have a priority channel programmed and you turn the priority mode on, you'll see that PRI, and that PRI, the character at the end, will tell you what mode of priority. So you can have standard priority or do not disturb. And then the next one where it says C254.1, that is the PL tone, or CTCSS, continuous tone coded sound squelch. Or if that shows D and then a number, then that's called the DCS, or digital PL, or digital code squelch. And it will display, if you have it in tone search, it'll display the found code. Or if you've programmed a channel with PL or DPL, it'll show you the code that you have programmed in. And PL tones are decimal numbers with a one character to the right of the decimal point, so it'll be 123.0, or in this case 254.1. And then the next one is where the weather priority. When you have the weather priority turned on, you'll see the WX there on the bottom right corner.
All right, now we're going to go up the right side now. So close call, when you have that enabled running in the background, you're going to see this. It looks like a compass almost with the points, and then you'll see a circle with a C in it. That indicates that close call is on. You'll see this arrow here. If it's pointing up or down, it's just the direction of which way the scanner's scanning.
And we get people call about that all the time. And does it matter which direction the scanner scans?
No. It doesn't matter. You're going to pick it up regardless. It's just going around and around. And then this pesky thing, you will see this when your battery is running low. That indicates the battery is running low. And then we've got the key lock enabled. So if you turn the key lock, you're going to see this on the screen. Rich, tell us the rest of the way.
Sure. So then we have the signal strength, and everybody knows that for looking at their cell phones all day long. Oh, I got 3 bars. Well, works the same thing for scanners. The higher, the better. It's not calibrated. It's just a relative signal strength indicator. And then the LO, it will tell you whether it's locked out. It'll say LO for permanent lockout, or TLO for temporary lockout. And if you're held on a channel and you see that, you can unlock that channel by pressing the lockout button. It toggles you through the 3 lockout modes: off, temporary, or permanent lockout. And then if the radio is on hold, by pressing the hold button, that means the channel, the scanner is stopped. It used to be called a manual mode. Now it's called hold mode. Just a different terminology for the same function. And that little F up in the upper left corner, that is actually very important. When you press the F button on your scanner, that little F will pop up on that corner of the display, and it'll stay there for about 2 seconds and then disappear. So that means you have about 2 seconds to do something. Press one of the buttons that have orange text on it, or rotate the knob or something before that F goes away. And if you press that F button and you do the next task while that F is on there, you're done. If you press the button and then you're too slow to do it, just press the function button again, and the F will come back on. And that just indicates that you're in the function mode waiting for it to do something.
All right, so we went all the way around this. This image is actually from the manual. It was displayed with numbers. I actually put in all the text around this so we could do it this way versus doing it the way it was in the manual. So thanks, Uniden, for this great chart, but I added in all the text around this so we have that. So that basically is the lay of the land when it comes to the 125AT. Now, we have to, viewer discretion is advised right now. The radio is going to strip down.
It's going to be naked.
So we have to warn you, do not do this at home. Opening your scanner can void your warranty. And as always, Rich loves to open up the radios and take a peek inside. So Rich, we're going to look inside your 125AT. You're going to go over some of the components inside there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go widescreen so you guys can see what Rich is talking about. So let's go to the next slide and let's open this up right now. This is everything, Rich, right?
This is everything except the batteries. Starting at the top, you have the daughter board in the corner, and then the main board with the display board on the right. And then you have the keypad and the keypad contact sheet. The antenna, of course. In the middle, you've got the metal shield, and that will go between the two boards when the boards are sandwiched together. And, of course, you have the case halves on the up there, the front and rear, and the battery holder. And then you got all the hardware. So that little rectangular kind of long string clip thing, that is a retaining clip for the speaker. And then there's the rubber pad that covers the USB port just above that. There are 10 black screws, 2 black machine screws, and 2 small silver machine screws. And the large round piece is the speaker washer or grommet, rubber washer to keep it from bouncing around. And then that little silver round thing is the antenna nut. So if you're going to take your radio apart, you're going to want to, if you turn the camera back onto me, I'll show you this little X tool. This is called an X tool, and this is used to take the antenna nut off. And the antenna nut has got 2 little notches on there, and this has got 2 matching notches, and you just put this on top of the antenna connection, and you can take the antenna nut off with this tool. It makes it a lot simpler.
All right, so let's take a look back at the slide. There it is once more, all the parts of it taken apart, and I can't advise this anymore. Do not do this at home. I mean, if you're not,
if you don't trust yourself, don't do it.
Yeah, and you will void your warranty if you take your radio apart. Rich does it, so you don't have to.
That's right. So let's go to the next slide. This is a closer look at the 2 boards. Actually, this is the same board, just the front and back side of it. So on the left-hand side, you'll see it's actually the main board with the daughter board still attached, and you'll see the antenna connectors on the right. And there's a metal shield around some of the RF circuitry on the left side of that, and then you see the battery well on the back, on the bottom. And then on the right-hand side is behind the front panel, and of course that's the display there. You see the keyboard contacts, and they're actually labeled. One thing I will say about Uniden is they are very good at labeling their circuit boards. There is no mystery when you get inside the radio what things are, because they are really good at labeling things. And then you see the speaker on the bottom and these 2 solder pads for the speaker. On some of the Uniden radios, the speaker connection is made by spring terminals, and just the physical pushing of the speaker into the radio that holds it on there. On this one, there are actually wires on there, and they're soldered. So you can replace the speaker if necessary, but they're very hard to get the parts. So if you move on, there you go. So on the left, you're going to see a close-up of the main processor. And you'll see the number on there says UB370. It's upside down because the way the sticker is on there. 370, if you'll look at the serial number on your scanner, is the first part of the 125 serial number. So it's kind of like their product number. And you can see all of the parts and connections that are labeled there. D306 and D305, those are diodes, of course, and all kinds of these different parts. And they're all very well diagrammed on the radio. And then if you take a look at the actual chip itself, it's IC301. That, again, is the main processor for the radio. So all that stuff, all the memory and controls and stuff is all within that. On the right-hand side is more of a overall view of the main board. You see the battery well on the bottom. You see some power transistors above it, and you see that beige rectangular connector towards the right-hand side of the radio above the batteries. That is the piece that connects to the daughter board and it marries those two pieces together. And then on the left side of the center, you're going to see the USB port, and that is the where the USB cable plugs in the side to not only charge the radio but also to program it. That is a standard everyday USB mini cable. So if you've got a USB mini cable from something else, it will work on the radio. There is nothing special about that cable, and it's just a standard everyday USB mini cable. So get an extra one, keep it in the car, keep one at the house, put one in your camera bag, and keep them all over the place.
All right, let's take a look at the next slide.
I messed up a little bit. I used the same picture twice, but that's okay. If you take a look on the left, you see a bunch of diodes going all the way around that main processor.
These right here?
Yep, those there, and there's another row on the bottom, and then maybe on the left side. So those are they're basically used as switches, either on or off. And in the old days, they were used to do things like turn on and off different bands and different features, so they could use the same hardware for different radios in different regions of the world. That used to be well documented, but these days that kind of stuff isn't documented. And the stuff that would do things like turn on cellular frequencies and stuff like that, those would be coded in epoxy. But since this radio doesn't cover those frequencies, that really isn't needed. But if you really wanted to get adventurous and to see if you can change the feature set, you could try taking those diodes in and out. But I can guarantee you'll probably blow up your radio if you do. Then on the right side is a close-up of that connector. So when you put the radio back together and you match those boards, that connector, it actually snaps in. So you can actually hear it snap when you put it in there, and you'll know that the two boards are married correctly. And again, you can see the labeling on there. They do a fantastic job of labeling the different solder points and components. So this is the on the left-hand side is the RF daughter board. So that's where all the RF circuitry is. So the signal comes in and out of the antenna, and it goes through all the different circuitry, and that's where all the RF processing is done. And if you look on the bottom left of that, you'll see the male end of that connector that's called J2, and that's the one that connects to the main board. And again, like I say, it snaps when you put them together. And when you're trying to take them apart, you got to kind of give it a little bit of a tug in order for it to pull out. And then on the top, you see the antenna connector, and then that's a headphone jack, and then the multi-function control. It goes up and down, and it turns around in circles. And there are several more integrated circuits on there. And again, everything is very well labeled. On the right-hand side, you're going to see a close-up of the antenna connection. And this is about the only thing that a user might be able to repair if something goes bad. If you drop the radio and break or the antenna connector or it comes loose, that could be resoldered or replaced. I've actually done it on a 325 and a 436. It's a little hairy, but I've done it. I was successful at doing it. I don't recommend it unless you're willing to sacrifice the radio if you don't do it right. And then there's one other item which I thought was pretty interesting is on the bottom center on the left picture is the timing crystal. It's the time base. It's a 21.3 megahertz crystal, and that is used to give a stable frequency reference so that the radio can do the math involved internally to program the proper frequencies. So if that crystal is off frequency, then the frequencies that you're hearing would be off frequency. And remember, before we talked about coating components with epoxy to prevent them from being altered, which is a requirement by law for scanners that are capable of hearing frequencies that may be assigned to the cellular frequency range. So since this radio doesn't cover those frequencies, they don't actually have to put the epoxy on. But since they share this board, I'm sure, with other radios, including perhaps a 325, if I were to take a 325 apart, I'm sure there would be epoxy in that range within those two boxes there where epoxy is labeled. And that's an FCC requirement to make sure that people don't mess around with the frequency coverage. Since this radio doesn't have the RF circuitry needed for that, that's not an issue. The metal cage is there to protect some of the RF circuitry from interference. And that's pretty much the inside of the radio. I do have instructions on taking the radio apart and putting it back together. But basically, if you do take it apart, just reverse the procedure to when you're putting it back together. Don't forget to put the metal shield in there. And I'm sure you're probably going to have to take it apart and put it back together again to put the parts in that you forgot to do. I've done that.
All right, so now we're going to take a look at manually programming the radio. So we're going to go through the steps of doing that. So let's take a look at the next slide. So here is some things about the when you go into, you press the function button and then the program button will take you into the programming menu. And this is the menu all laid out. So the first option you're going to see on the screen is enter frequency. So you would hit the E button there, and then you would put that known frequency into the radio, and then you would go to the next menu once you were done with that, edit tag, which you would program the tag. And then the next menu would be, putting in that PL tone. And then typically the modulation, it usually will go to auto and default, but you can change it. And then if you were interested in changing priority or delay or if the channel was locked out, you could do it there. Deleting the channel, clearing the bank, and then, of course, exiting out of this menu. So these are all options under the programming menu. Now, we talked about this on Monday night about the delay. Yeah. So, if you have the dispatcher on one frequency and the crew of railroad on another, you want to reduce down that delay considerably because you don't want it staying for a long period of time because you may miss the radio transmission. Right. So this is where you would definitely do it. But this is how the menu would lay out on the screen. You would only see 3 options at a time, but this is as if we were able to make that screen long and stretch it out. This is everything that you would see.
Yeah, and it's a very simple radio to program once you get into that menu. And once you've done a couple channels, you can do the rest of the channels in just a few minutes. It's really not that hard.
So there's what that looks like. Here is the 6 steps for programming the radio. So the first thing you want to do is you want to press the hold button. And you want to press channels 1 through 500, decide where you want to put the frequency. And then press the E button to enter in the channel number. And then once you're there, you would then press the E button and scroll and highlight and enter the frequency, and then press the E button. And then use the keypad to do that, the decimal point, for where it's needed. And then if you do make a mistake, you can press the decimal point again and it will clear the line.
Yeah, that's something that's pretty typical with Uniden scanners. If you screw up and make a mistake, just press that decimal button twice and that will bring you back. It'll delete the stuff that you have typed onto the screen, and then it'll bring you back to the previous screen.
And then, of course, once you have the frequency stored in there, you're going to press the E button, and it'll return you to the channel button. And then you can press the period button to return back to the last screen if you wish.
Yeah.
Of course, you may want to program in the frequency and then program in the three things that are most important. Of course, is the frequency. The next thing is PL tone, that I would say, and then alpha tag.
Yeah.
Those are going to be the things that you're going to be using that menu option a lot.
Yeah, and if you're going to program in the frequency and the PL tone, you can always go back and enter the name later. Or if you're, like I said, if you've got the time and the desire to do it, you can do it all at the same time.
Rich, tell us a little bit more about programming in the alpha tag.
All right, so it's pretty much the same procedure, but you just you go to the channel that you want to go to. You press the hold button, and then you can either scroll through the channels or you can press the channel number. So if it's channel 1, just press the hold button. It'll stop on a random channel. Press the 1 button and then enter, and that'll bring you to channel 1. And then you're going to press the program button or the E button to enter the channel menu, and then you're going to use the knob to scroll to edit tag, and then again just press the E button. You also can tap the knob instead of the E button, whichever is easier for you. And then using the scroll control, you turn the knob to go through all the different characters, A through Z, lowercase, uppercase, numbers, and there's a few punctuation marks that you can also use.
Yeah, specialty characters.
It's special. Yeah, I was trying to figure out what that term was. That was what it was. And then you use the 4 or the 6 button to move the cursor back and forth. Usually it's going to be the 6 button, and that moves the cursor to the right to the next character. But if you messed up and you spell Blue Angel BLEU, you can back the cursor up with the 4 button and then change the text. And again, once that text item is or that character is highlighted, you just rotate the knob until you get the text in there that you want. And again, you can be uppercase, lowercase, or it could be some specialty characters. If you make a mistake, you just press the clear button and that clears it out. If you press the button twice, it'll clear out all the characters. So if you've changed the channel and it's now an aviation channel, it used to be a railroad channel, just press that clear or that decimal button twice, tap, tap, and that erases the entire thing and lets you start fresh instead of having to change each character. And then once you're done, just you're done, and you can go to the next channel and do it again.
It's as simple as that. So we're going to reveal the software that you can use to program the 125AT. It's made by our friends over at Butel. And it's the ARC125AT Butel software. If you've used Butel software in the past, it basically has the same layout throughout many of the Butel software. As you can see here, it's very easy to operate. It looks like an Excel sheet with the layout, and then each column has the name of it, so you know to put the frequency in this block here, the alpha tag here, the mode here, which is AM, FM, FM narrow, or auto. And then, of course, there'll be a pull down here to be able to put the PL tone, delay time. If you want this frequency for whatever reason locked out, you could set it in there, whether you want this to be a priority channel. You can even put in your own comments here. So, notes when you're using the software. So you could program, everything that you need in bank 1 and then work on bank 2 and so on and so forth. Very simple to do. You can either click over here, or you've got the tabs going across left to right to be able to do that. And of course you can save this, which is great. And then, if you need to program your buddy's radio, you can just grab his radio, program it in just like yours if you wish. And then, of course, these important buttons right here, once you're done with your programming, you can send the information to the radio. If there's some frequencies that you've added in the field, you may want to read the radio and then work on your alpha tags or add in additional frequencies and then resend it. But if you do that, update your file, save it. Yeah. The other great thing about it is you can save multiple variations of programming. So you could call this, your railroad configuration. And then you may have an aviation configuration. So, or you may be taking a trip. You may want to set up the hold scanner for the whole trip. You can save that, and then you can, of course, restore it back to your home programming as well. So that's a great thing about the Butel software. The other thing that I discovered, and it's a beta version, is they actually have, with the regular ARC 125 software, you have virtual control, which is pretty cool.
Oh yeah, and if you've ever used virtual control on scanner before, you'll love it. Not only does it allow you to control the scanner and view what the display looks like on your computer, but more importantly, it allows you to log all the activity. And so you can leave it and go to work, and then when you come home, you can see all the activity that hit on the scanner while you were gone.
There is Uniden does have a free version of the software, but it's very basic. It's very stripped down. The other thing with the Butel software is, if you're a paid member of radioreference.com, see this internet button here? Mm-hmm. You would press that, a dialog box would pop up, and then it will have you enter in your username and password, and then you can import, any conventional frequencies that this radio is able to receive from Radio Reference. So that's another huge benefit of using Butel software, because it has that ability to communicate with Radio Reference, where the Uniden software will get the job done basically wise, but the Butel software is certainly worth the money to purchase. It's not that expensive either.
Yeah, the Uniden software is like buying a Yugo, and this is like buying a Chevrolet. So it works much better, and it's going to get you there a lot quicker. The Yugo, you're going to have to get out and push halfway through. So
this is the Butel software. It'll run on the Windows operating system. So if you've got Windows, any of the Windows versions, it'll operate on that. As for any of the other operating systems, it will not operate on Mac. But yeah, this is certainly the route to go if you're looking to program your scanner by computer. Now, the 125AT, there's a whole slew of accessories. And of course, we're hitting the top of the hour. So we're going to give you a quick little preview of the key accessories that we're going to recommend. Power is always a good thing. Whenever possible, you want to plug in your radio. To save on your batteries. So if you're able to plug into your vehicle, you may want to purchase one of these USB cigarette lighter adapters. Some vehicles actually have a USB connector already built in for power. But if you don't, get one of these, not very expensive. You're at home, or you're able to plug in somewhere. There's a utility outlet somewhere. Use one of these. It's a USB AC adapter. Great for the home, great for travel. Yep. And then, of course, this comes right in the box. But, it doesn't hurt getting a couple extra ones of these, like Rich said, in your camera bag. Have one in there. Have one in the car. Right. Have one at the house. This cable is definitely key. Get an extra programming or power cable.
And once again, it's a standard, everyday, off-the-shelf USB mini cable. So it's the kind of one that looks kind of like a trapezoid, and you can, like I say, keep an extra one. It's really gonna make your life a lot easier.
So these are definitely key things. I can't stress enough. I'm on the big bandwagon of carrying cases. My 125AT, which is,
you love the carry cases.
Well, part of it is because I helped out and designed some of the carrying cases. So there's my carrying case here. I have the soft leather. What's pictured in the photo is the hard leather case. So if you're looking for the ultimate protection, get the hard leather case. If you're going to invest into one of these radios, certainly buy a carrying case. That's definitely a key thing for protecting your investment from scratches, bangs, and all that. And it keeps your radio looking great. And if you're going to be wearing it on your side, you've got a nice sturdy belt clip, which is very helpful. So definitely take a look at the cases that are available. They're made right here in the United States, and Scanner Master has a lot of input on designing these. These are designed for us.
Yes, they are specifically designed for us, and you especially have had a lot of input on the actual design of those cases, and it really has. They really are well made.
Yeah, so it's available in nylon, soft leather, and hard leather. So definitely check that out when you purchase the 125AT. Another thing that Rich and I basically had a lot of input on. We wanted a lapel speaker that really worked.
Oh, yeah.
So we coined this lapel speaker. I believe Rich gave it the name, the Scanner Blaster.
Yes.
And it will blast. Now, the thing about it, when you do get one of these, put your volume down low before you plug it in. You're not going to need it up to 15. You may want to put it on 2 or 3 and then adjust from there.
Yeah, if you have it up too high and somebody comes up, you run the risk of breaking the windows in the house. It's that loud.
Yeah, it is definitely great. There's not a shut-off switch internally for the lapel speaker, so when you're not using it, open the back door, take the battery out. It doesn't hurt taking the battery out anyway if you're not using this all the time.
Yeah,
the battery,
plug it in.
the battery is charged inside of it, so if you've only used it for an hour or so, take the battery out and then let it sit, and then put it back in when you want to power it up. It is amplified. So the great thing about it, this is going to save your scanner batteries because you're not cranking the volume all the way up.
Yeah.
And then, you're using the battery in the lapel speaker. It is a heavy-duty lapel speaker, too. I mean, it's not cheap, but it's certainly worth it if you're using this in noisy environments such as trackside or at an airport where the planes are going over and you want to be able to hear. This lapel speaker, it's loud. You can put it up at your shoulder and be able to hear.
Yeah, it really is. And, the Scanner Blaster is the ideal name for it because it really is loud. And it works really well. One thing I wish it did have was a volume control on the unit itself with the power switch. It doesn't, but you could just plug it in and to a USB cable when you're not using it and let it charge the battery and leave it plugged in. It's designed to be plugged in whenever it's not in use, so you can do that. Or, like you say, pop the battery out. What I do is I pop the battery out the back and I clip the battery into the belt clip of the mic so I don't lose it.
That's for sure. So this is definitely a good thing to be able to purchase. And that wraps up the deep dive into the Uniden Bearcat 125AT. We tried to cover everything. I'm sure there's other things that we could have discussed, and we may end up discussing in the Ask the Question segment, which is coming up now. If this is the first time you're watching the broadcast, thank you so much for watching. In the first hour, we covered the topic of discussion, which we did. So now the next 30 minutes or so, we're going to answer your questions. So post the questions in the comments. If you're just joining us and you're a little late to the show, make sure you hit the subscribe button. This broadcast will be available right after the broadcast is done. To be announced next week. We haven't decided on a topic. For the next 30 minutes, if you have a topic that you want us to cover, put it in the comments. The other thing that we're thinking about doing, if you want to do a show with your shack photos, email us your shack photos. Take a couple of photos. You can use your smartphone. Take a couple of photos of your shack. Tell us a little bit about you and what you got there and what you're listening to. It'll be your 15 seconds of fame right here on the Scanner Guy Show. So if we get enough of shack photos, we will do a whole show with your shack photos. I know a lot of you have sent in some shack photos. We're actually sitting on them to see if we can get some more photos to be able to showcase everybody's shack. Yeah. So definitely email the scannerguys@gmail.com if you want to show off your shack and have your 15 seconds of fame right here on the Scanner Guys. So that possibly could be next week's topic of discussion if we get enough photos in. If not, We may take one of your suggestions, but send those photos in. Once we have enough, we're going to do that show.
And
So
we'll let you know what the topic, the final choice of the topic is on Monday when we post it at Radio Reference.
yeah, so definitely check that out. We may announce it a little bit sooner on our social media, so definitely follow, like, and subscribe to all that. If you're watching us on YouTube and you're wondering, I wish I could get them on the TV. If you go to Smart Television, if you're using the Amazon Fire Stick or Roku or Apple TV, you can download the YouTube app and watch us on the big screen. Next week's broadcast will be Wednesday, August the 11th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific, right here on our YouTube channel. So definitely tune into that. We've got a great show planned for next month for Train Aficionado Live. The first Monday of the month falls on Labor Day. So we're going to have a Labor Day special, the men and women of railroading. We're going to talk about the various positions a railroad has. That'll be Monday, September the 6th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. And then the following Monday, on the 13th, we're going to have an interview with the owners. It's a husband and wife team that own Rail Streams. We're going to talk to them on the show live the following Monday, which is September the 13th, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
It'll be 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. We will give you lots of reminders. So make sure you follow, like, and subscribe to Train Aficionado Live on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram, and check out the blog as well. We want to remind you real quick about our sponsor, Scanner Master. Since 1978, the nation's most experienced dealer of all brands of new scanners, software, accessories, and programming. You can also purchase right now the 125AT scanner from Scanner Master. Click the affiliate link below in this video and you can check out the 125AT, purchase it for yourself if you're looking for the ultimate transportation scanner. So you can shop us online or call the scanner experts tomorrow morning at 1-800-722-6637. That's 1-800-722-6637. We're open Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Time. The website again is scannermaster.com. If you have a scanner question and you want to ask it by email, support@scannermaster.com. That's support@scannermaster.com. And follow, like, and subscribe to their social media as well, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at Scannermaster Co. So we will announce the show, of course, on our social media and on Radio Reference. So stay tuned. So now it's time to answer your questions. So Rich, what do we got going on in the comments and questions?
Well, we have got a lot of check-ins today. So hello to everybody that's checking in. We can't acknowledge everybody, but we do read each and every one of them every week. So thank you for all the comments. We have a couple of international check-ins. Abbotsford, British Columbia, South America. Welcome, guys. Enrique asked if we have a video where it's clearly shown how to work with the close call and all functions off and do not disturb. We did that show a couple, 3 weeks ago. So Enrique, look back at our YouTube page, and we did a show just on close call. So we did an entire show on it. So everything you ever wanted to know, but we're afraid to ask, is going to be on that close call show. And let's see here. Texas is checking in. North Carolina. Another Canadian. As far as the close call, there's 3 different settings. There's off, do not disturb, and priority for close call. Again, all of those are listed in the show that we did just a couple 3 weeks ago. Let's see here. Hinckley, Illinois. I know where that's at. I spent a lot of time at that little airport there at the skydiving. They used to have a skydiving place there. And we did have a great show on Monday for the train show. So if you didn't see that, go back to the Train Aficionado page and watch that show. That was a great show last week. The question about the Disco and the Tram 1141 antenna, I'm not familiar with that one. We do sell two Disco antennas at Scanner Master. We have the Skyband and we have the Diamond D130. The D130 is a little more sturdy of an antenna. The Skyband is a little bit less sturdy, but much less expensive. So, yeah, a lot more regulars. Is it necessary to ground the antenna? Yeah, do a proper ground on any outside antennas. That's for sure. And there's a lot of documentation on how to properly ground base station antennas. But yeah, you definitely want to do that. Question came up as I changed my shack around. I actually didn't change the shack itself, but I changed some of the computers on my desk, so now the camera is facing a little bit different direction. I might change some of the stuff in the back one of these days, but for right now, it's pretty much the same as it is, just the camera's in a different spot. So, let's see here. Yeah, the 125 does have a nice backlight. And I do love the lighting on the 125. It really is nice and bright, and it really does. They did a nice job with that display. So that's the light off, that's the light on. It really does make it a lot easier to see sometimes. 325, which has got the very similar case and very similar looking. It does suck up batteries because when you're tracking your trunking system, it's constantly receiving, and that means the scanner is working harder, so the batteries don't last as long. And with only two batteries in the 125 and 325, they won't last quite that long. So the actual battery life on a 325 is comparable to other trunking scanners. It's just that there's only two batteries, so you're going to get about a third less battery life out of it just because there's only two cells. Let's see here. Yep. Joe mentioned the same thing. By definition, trunking radios are always receiving and decoding. Is there a base station equivalent to the 125? Not directly. The two closest ones are the 365, which doesn't have text or PL tones, or the Bearcat, the BCT15X, which, even though it's a trunking scanner, it's analog only. So as far as trunking goes, it really isn't usable much these days. But it does have text, and it is a fantastic analog scanner. So if you don't need digital, the BCT15 is a good desktop scanner for you. A duplex adapter to change the type of antenna. You can have different antennas, so you can use a VHF antenna for railroad and marine stuff, or an airband antenna for airband stuff, or a wideband antenna. You can also, if you want to share one antenna amongst many radios, you can use a multi-coupler. And we've had shows about multi-couplers as well, so go back and watch those shows. They are very informative. Bill asked about software programming. It probably caught us a couple minutes before we started talking about the software. There is Uniden software available for the 125. It's very basic, as Jonathan mentioned earlier. So the ARC 125 is much better for most users. Jock's got a 125. He says it's awesome. Yes, sir. I think we agree. Nothing special about the USB cable. It's just a standard, regular, everyday USB cable. And let's see here. It's a regular mini USB. Yeah, let's see. More check-ins from all over the place. Boy, a lot of people checking in tonight. I can't believe it.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like just a ton of people there.
Yeah, absolutely. Does the ARC software offer more programming features than the Uniden software? Yeah, a lot.
Yeah, I mean,
mentioned earlier.
Radio reference. I mean, that's a big thing to be able to have that import in. I mean, granted, the 125AT is not a complicated scanner where you're programming like a difficult system, like a trunking system.
Yeah.
But still, what I use the importing feature in the 125 AT is to get the frequencies in, and then what I'll do is I will tweak the alpha tags. I will change the alpha tags to the way I like them, and then, it'll kind of lay the groundwork.
Absolutely. Remember, if you're going to take your 125 or any scanner to the racetrack, bring a little short, stubby antenna. We've got them on our website. You can get them elsewhere as well. But get one of those little dinky, short antennas because they are a lot less efficient than a standard scanner antenna. But that's the whole idea. You don't want a good antenna at the racetrack because of the overload factor. So get yourself a little stubby antenna. It'll work fine at the racetrack because it's such a signal-rich environment. We mentioned earlier that looks like CB might be allowing FM. That should make things interesting. So I'm not a CB guy, but it might rejuvenate the CB hobby. I know it's been in decline for a long time. Chris is working on a golf course, and he says they're using MURS radios. Very common to do that. The golf course I live on doesn't use MURS, but there's one a couple miles away that does use MURS radios as well. So that's pretty common. So put the MURS frequencies in your radios. You never know what you're going to hear. Joe, one of the 17 Joes that we talk to every week, says his favorite scanners were the 330 and the 436. So yeah, the 330 was kind of an analog version of the 396, but also had shortwave. I only did AM on shortwave, but it was the only scanner that I know of that did that. So, Joe, one of the other Joes is going to send us pictures of his shack. Please do.
Yeah, let's put up that email address right now. I want to remind everyone that this email is not monitored 24/7, so if you do have scanner support questions, you want to email them to support@scannermaster.com. That's support@scannermaster.com, but your shack photos can go to thescannerguys@gmail.com. thescannerguys@gmail.com.
And if you're from Chicago, it's pronounced "the Scanner Guys," but it has to be spelled out as "the" or "the" if you're from New York. Alrighty, it would be nice if the 125 covered the 222 megahertz ham band. Yeah, it doesn't, but that would be kind of neat. 220 is kind of an interesting in between ham band. It's not quite VHF and not quite UHF. It kind of gives a mix of both. It's kind of like the forgotten ham band these days. But yeah, unfortunately, the 125 doesn't cover that. Mike uses his case, and it helps from preventing hitting the buttons accidentally. So yeah, the case will definitely do that. And you don't have to then use the button lock. But yeah, and it also protects the buttons from getting sheared. I've had occasions where I've brushed up alongside something. I'm clumsy. I'll be the first one to admit it. I'm one of the clumsiest people on the planet. And I will brush up against something, and I've actually sheared a button off a scanner when I hit something, a corner or something like that, and I literally just pulled the button right out of the scanner. So, yeah, it will help prevent damage, especially if you're a klutz like I am. So Charlie has got several scanners. He uses his SDSs for a lot of digital stuff. He uses his 325 for analog, since it doesn't work particularly well at simulcast. So he says the 125 would have been a cheaper buy for him than the 325 for that kind of stuff. So yeah, if you don't need digital, the 125 is a great scanner. We sell that for about $130 new, and they go for roughly half that or 2/3 that on the used market. And let's see here. The weather alert is nice if you're out boating or at the beach and want to check for bad weather, but don't want to bother people that are around you. Absolutely. And Danny wants to see more shack pictures. Well, Danny, we want to see yours as well, so make sure you send them. Marine channels are FM. Yes, they are. As are railroad channels. Aviation channels, both on the civil and the military side, are AM. Although the military can operate in FM modes on almost any frequency that they want to, and they can also operate on AM mode on almost any frequency they want to. They have very frequency agile radios in a lot of places. So our buddy from Framingham wished that the 125 was able to put names on the banks. Yeah, that would be a really great feature, put names on the banks.
I agree with that. You know, that's something that I've mentioned to the scanner gods, saying, you know, if you ever do come out with something that's going to replace the 125AT, allow us to name the banks.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be huge. Mike has got a 75 XLT, which is very similar to the 125, except it only has 300 channels. It doesn't have PL, and it doesn't have channel names. And the SR30 is basically the 75 on steroids. The only difference is that it's got 500 channels instead of 300 channels. So, yeah, if if that extra $29 or $30 for the 125 is going to prevent you from getting the radio, then you can get an SR30 or a 75. But spend the extra couple of bucks and get the 125. You'll be happy you did. The arrow does not indicate upper or lower sideband.
No.
That's just the direction of the scan. So it's going channels 1, 2, 3 or 3, 2, 1. It makes absolutely no difference at all which direction it's scanning, but for some reason people get very upset if it's not scanning the direction they want it to scan. And in order to change the scan direction, just while it's scanning, just turn the knob. If you turn the knob clockwise, it'll make it scan up. If you turn the knob counterclockwise, it'll make it scan down. But it really doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't. It'll just scan through the same things no matter what.
Yeah. Brian asks if the 125 will pick up the Massachusetts State Police.
On low band, but not on the trunking system, no. So you need, for the Massachusetts State Police, they are in the process of moving over to a fully statewide digital trunk system. Parts of the state is already using the digital system, so the 125AT would be okay in the low band, but you're not going to hear all the action on the low band. You need a digital scanner for the Mass State Police.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see here. 75 also has programming software called ARC 75. Yeah, there is ARC software for just about every scanner. And one of the questions we get often is, if I have ARC 125, can I also use that to program my other scanner? So that's the one thing with ARC software is it really only applies to 1 or 2 models. So the ARC 125 software only works on the 125. The exception is the ARC XT software, which works on the 396 XT, the 325 P2, the 996 XT, and the 996 P2. And the ARC 536 software works on the 436, the 536, and the 2 SDS radios. Brian wants to listen to the NBTA subways, and what portable radio does he need to get?
Yep, that is the a digital radio on the Uniden side. If you're looking at portables, it would be the 325 P2. It would be the 436 HP or the SDS 100. Now you need to purchase one of those radios, and you also need to purchase the Pro Voice upgrade. Those are 2 essential things. You're going to need one of the 3 radios, and you will need to also purchase the Pro Voice upgrade in order to be able to hear the MBTA.
All righty. Charles has got the Butel software he's using on Windows 10, but he wonders if he can run that on Linux or Android. No, unfortunately, it only runs in Windows. Now, there are some emulators that may allow you to run Windows software within the Linux operating system. I don't think there's any way to do that on an Android. You can do it on a Mac. In fact, I'm doing it right now on a Mac using Parallels You can also use Fusion. You can use Boot Camp, and I think there's a program called Wine that allows you to run Windows applications on a Mac. I don't think there's any way to do it on an Android, and there's definitely no way to do it on iOS. Let's see here. Always save your programming. If you've got important programming files that you've spent a lot of time creating, make sure you have a good, solid backup. And you might want to consider throwing them onto a thumb drive or onto an online storage just as an extra way to back it up. Because if you lose it, now you've got to recreate it, or it's in your radio, so you can copy it from your radio. Let's see here. So Chris subscribes to Radio Reference, and he's using Butel software trying to figure out DMR. So hopefully whatever radio you're using, Chris, for DMR is DMR capable, and you have the DMR update installed on your radio, because it won't work without it. Let's see here. Great case of a blackout. So yeah, that's why we recommend people that have scanners to at least consider a handheld scanner, because if the power goes out, the radio will still work. On a desktop radio, if the power goes out, unless it's a home patrol, or you have batteries for some sort of a battery pack for that radio. Let's see here. Chris loves his case.
Carrying case is a key. I mean, it keeps the radios protected. I mean, look, I know we're not talking about this radio tonight, but this is the SDS 100. I got a carrying case on that. I mean, this is an expensive piece of hardware.
Yep.
I mean, protect your radio. I mean, that's the key thing. I mean, I even have my my portable two-way radio. I do have a carrying case for that. I just want to give a quick shout out. I saw Kevin out at the North Carolina Transportation Museum over the weekend. It was the first time that I've been spotted in public from the scanner guys. I was a little bit, the guy, Kevin came up to me and said, "Hey, Jonathan, I know you from the scanner guys." I was like, whoa, it was, just, like crazy that somebody, I was out and about and somebody saw me and knew me from the show. So, I had a great conversation with Kevin. He was there with his son. They had a classic car show from the movies. So they had, a couple of cars, Volkswagen Beetles from Herbie. They also had a remake of the Ghostbusters vehicle. They had the Trans Am remake of the from Smokey and the Bandit, and of course they had the police car. Somebody recreated the police car from Smokey and the Bandit when the whole top of it got torn off. Yeah, so some great things there.
Yeah.
Great things there, great to meet you, Kevin, if you're watching this evening, or if you're catching us on the rebroadcast, hopefully you hear this. But, I'm looking forward to meeting more of you out there, out and about, and certainly if we both make an appearance at Dayton, we hope to do something there as well. But, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Kevin.
One thing that we forgot to mention earlier on the 125 is that inside the battery compartment, there is a little switch that allows you to select either analog or rechargeable. So what happens is when that switch is analog, alkaline or rechargeable.
Analog.
Yeah, I've got digital on my mind here and analog on my mind. So if you put that switch over to the alkaline side, what that does is when you plug a USB cable into the side of the radio, it will not send charging current to the batteries. If it's set to nickel metal hydride, it will send charging power to the batteries. So if you're using non-rechargeable batteries, alkaline, Duracell, whatever type of non-rechargeable batteries, make sure you have that switch put over to the alkaline side so that if you do plug it in, you don't accidentally send charging current into your radio. And if you try to put charging current into an alkaline battery, nasty things happen, sometimes involving smoke flames, melting, or chemical leaking, which is none of those are good for your radio.
Yeah, if in doubt, switch it over to the alkaline side.
Yeah.
The other great thing that we recommend all the time, leave it on the alkaline side. Get one of those battery chargers, and you don't have to worry about ruining your radio. Throw those batteries into a battery charger. And the other thing, they're going to charge a lot faster because that's what the battery charger is meant for. Throw batteries in and plug it in versus trying to use your radio to charge the battery.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a joke on here. It said, my first wife said she was going to leave me if I didn't get rid of all the radios. I wonder what she's doing these days. So, Joe, thank you for that chuckle.
Yeah.
I've had girlfriends. I've only been married once, but I've had girlfriends that have said it was either me or the radios, and there's the door. Now, if my wife told me it was me or the radios, I'd have to think about that one though. I kind of like her, so.
Yeah, I think she's made some big suggestions with your radios, so I don't think you have to worry about that.
No, I don't think so. And if you knew my wife, you'd know why she's a great wife for a guy with radios. Let's see here. Lost my place. I ever do that with Butel. Do you ever, if you ever lose your license registration number? So, two things with Butel. You can buy the software one of two ways. You can buy it on CD or nowadays on a flash drive. Or, and what we always recommend people to do, buy the download version. Now, if you buy the software on a download version, not only do you get it immediately, but we email you the product key, and then you can type in the product key and unlock the software. If you ever lose the product key and you bought it as a download, just call us, and we can email you the product key. And boom, no problem. You download the software again, install it on your new computer, and off you go, and everybody's happy. If you bought it on CD and you lose the CD case where the product key is and you didn't write it down someplace, fork out another $40 or $70 for a new copy of the software, because we cannot recover the product key if you bought it on CD or a thumb drive. So buy the download version, and if you lose it, no big deal. Just call us. We'll take care of it. Which do we recommend, the 996P2 or the 536?
Depends on your, what radio you like better. I mean, the biggest difference is the 996 is a clean slate scanner. The 536 is a database scanner. The programming is slightly different. You have the dynamic allocated memory system on the 996. You have favorites list or zip code programming on the 536. There's differences all around with size of screen. You have the standard 996 type of screen. You have a little bit bigger screen with the 536. It really depends on preference. I mean, if you like the favorites list programming aspect of it and having tons of lists, then the 536 is for you. If you're old school and you like the old school type of look and feel of a radio, the 996. As for digital, that we get a lot of questions on that as well. Depends on your location type of system. The 996 may work well on one system, and the 536 may work well on another system. It's it's a lot of personal preference.
Yeah, it really is. This particular guy is from South America, so the database portion of the 536 won't do him any good.
So you would need
to program it for your local stuff, but
yeah, you would need, for you to program it, you would be strictly favorites lists, and you would create a favorites list from your database that you're using the Butel software. So you would want to get the ARC 536 because everything you're going to do is custom.
Yep, absolutely. Alrighty, so question about the weather functionality in the 125. We did cover that probably right after he posted that. But one thing the 125 does not do is it doesn't do same alert. It'll do tone alert, so it'll be a general alert. So you'll still get the weather alerting, but it won't do the individual same codes. So you're just going to get the single tone, which every weather alert includes the tone alert, but you're not going to be able to select a specific county. You're going to get an area wide. And let's see here. Deep dive into the BCT15X. Yeah, we can put that on our list.
Yeah, deep dive of the BCT15X. That would be a good one. I mean, it's still a very relevant radio. We talked about the 15X, about setting up a railroad Broadcastify stream. It's the ideal radio for that. And we talked about that on the Monday show. So if you missed the Monday show, Train Aficionado Live, we talked about an overview of using radio reference and setting up a feed on Broadcastify. And then Rich took us up to British Columbia, Canada, with some photos of the trains up there. So definitely check out the Train Aficionado YouTube channel. Check out our latest broadcast. You may find it interesting because we did cover some radio reference and some stuff about the BCT15X.
Yeah, we got a couple other suggestions. A deep dive on programming of the SDS 100 manually. That might be a good one. Maybe coverage of the Bearcat 885. I wouldn't hold my breath on that one.
Yeah, that's the 885 is what I would call, it's a scanner with somewhat of a, I mean, it's a CB radio with somewhat of a scanner, not much of a scanner. Yeah,
and I don't recommend that to people. I mean, if you're more into CB, then that'd be great. But if you're gonna spend that kind of money, get a cheaper CB and then get a decent scanner. I think you'd be a lot happier.
Yeah.
Asking about when the Condor antennas are going to be back in stock. Boy, I wish we could. I love my Condor antennas. They're big, they're bulky, but they work well, and I do like them a lot. Deep dive on the 996. Another vote for the 15X. Let's see here. Joe Bearcat's in the house. Howdy, Joe. We hope to have him on the show one of these days. So
yeah, from what I'm hearing, he's getting his office painted, so hopefully that'll get done soon, and we'll be able to check out the paint job.
How long does it take for that paint to dry, Joe? You don't have to watch it.
No, I mean, we're dying to have you on the show to be able to talk to you, get to know you. Yep. I mean, you are one of the many Joes.
About you. Wasn't that from a TV show or something?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many Joes in here, and you're one of the many Joes.
Yeah, we could do a show of all the Joes.
All the Joes.
All the Joes. All the Chris's and all the Joes. So
yeah.
In Sentinel, I'm guessing he has ARC 536. He sees a tool there called Target Mode or Target Model. And there's a listing for the SDS 200. Can he use the same favorites list for that? So, yeah. So in the ARC 536 software, it works with the 436, the 536, the SDS 100, and the SDS 200. If all you're doing is programming favorites lists, then you don't need to worry about the target model. The only thing you need to worry about that is for things like display settings or firmware updates.
Wait a minute, Bearcat Joe, we're not going to see your floor. Well,
we can see your floor. I can see my floor.
Oh yeah, you can see my floor. Yeah. I guess so. I mean, depending on how you have the camera. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll just have to do this then.
Yeah. There we go. How fast is the fan going?
Yeah, I actually put a video up on my Facebook. I put a GoPro on the blade of my ceiling fan, and then did a recording of the fan going around like this. it was
didn't make it too aerodynamic though.
No, it was kind of doing this. I also put the GoPro on top of my Roomba, and then let the Roomba go around the room. That was a real interesting thing. There's a lot of weird stuff you can do with a GoPro. Let's see here. New scanner shirt. So actually, this is a very old scanner shirt. This picture was taken, I'm guessing, in the late 90s, early 2000s, when the AR 8000 and was still on hot radio. A lot of people had Scouts and Bearcat 250s and 296s. We had a Karma meeting, and we had probably about 40 or 50 guys there. And so everybody took all their portable radios, and then we set them all up and took a picture of all the portable radios. And then one of the guys went out and made T-shirts. And the fact that I can still fit into a T-shirt from 25 years ago, dig it. Means what all that means is I haven't lost any weight in 25 years. That means the shirt still fits. So where did we buy the lapel speaker? Yeah, that was at Scanner Master. It's sold on Scanner Master as the Scanner Blaster.
Okay. All right, Joe. Okay, we're looking forward to it. So hopefully that floor will come in soon. The paint will dry. Everything else hopefully falls into place. Yep. And we can't wait to have you on the show, Joe.
All right, so we'll get to see the inside of the infamous Joe Mansion, or Joe Condo, or whatever it happens to be.
Joe Apartment, Joe Condo, Joe Mansion, Joe Cabin, yeah. Joe Cottage,
Joe Trailer, yeah. A few weeks ago, we mentioned that on Radio Reference you can download the color scheme, so you couldn't find it. So, yeah, look in the Uniden Tavern, I think it is. It's in one of the Uniden forums, and just do a search for color schemes or SDS 100 or SDS 200. And there's a long-running thread with 100 or more responses, and several dozen people have attached the files, programming files for their display settings, and it's in there. It's in one of the Uniden forums. It's either Uniden Tavern or Uniden Tech forums at Radio Reference, and there's a bunch of them. And the one that I use on my SDS, which is of course off screen, is on that, and it was and I like it. I just like the color scheme. It's very well done, and much better than anything I could have done. Let's see here. Joe's TV isn't smart enough to watch our show on, so.
Okay. Oh, I mean, you're watching us. That doesn't. You're watching us in some form. We appreciate it if you're watching us on your phone, if you're watching us on your tablet, if you're watching us on your computer, wherever you're able to watch us. I mean, you can watch us pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. We were talking earlier about the Uniden database scanners and working in different countries. They work fine in the U.S. and Canada, but outside the U.S. and Canada, any of those zip code type scanners or database scanners, you're going to have to program those either manually or with this Sentinel software custom programming for your area, because that database only works in U.S. and Canada. Let's see here. What's better, narrowband or wideband to use on your radios? It depends on what you're listening to. Most FM communications these days are narrow FM. There are a few that are wide FM. Marine channels are wide FM. Weather channels and low band. And hopefully I can get rid of these darn hiccups. So make sure you select the proper mode, Chris. That would be very important. Let's see here. Another chapter in the ongoing saga of Les's SDS 100. Apparently, the post office has lost his parcel with his SDS 100. Oh, he has had the absolute worst luck of anybody I know. That SDS 100 has been just about everywhere except his house since he's owned it. So, boy, Les, I don't know what to tell you on that one. Another show idea: outside antennas. with proper grounding and feed line selection, etc. And we
And
can also do one about attic insulation. I think we've done that recently.
Yeah, we've done a whole slew of things. There was a couple of broadcasts ago where it kind of, we entailed how to ground the antenna, proper insulation. I want to say it was like a month or two ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, we definitely, we'll wait a little bit of time before we redo the show again with new information.
Yeah.
But definitely that's a great suggestion.
Another request to do a deep dive on the 996P2. We could do that. Unfortunately, mine is installed in my car, so it's going to be difficult to uninstall it and take it out to do the pictures, but I suppose we could probably do something like that one of these days.
Yeah, I mean, we just did this deep dive. I'm trying to space these out somewhat so we don't do a whole bunch of deep dives and then we don't have any more deep dives to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Viewer from West Virginia. My wife is from a nearby area. Her home was right in that corner where Kentucky, Virginia, and West Virginia all come together. So she was one of your neighbors. Let's see here. Wash your hands. Absolutely. Wash your hands early. Watch them often, just like you vote these days. And wear your masks. That's do things and be safe. Let's see here. Hi to all the Joes, and other Joes. And let's see here. Steve got his new 125 this week. He had an SDS, but he wanted something a little more dedicated to analog stuff. So yeah, the 125 is going to be great. You're going to have a lot of fun with that, Steve. He manually programmed a couple railroad channels. Real easy once he figured out the banks. Yep. And if some of the younger scanner users might not remember the old bank and channels days when things were a lot simpler, but a lot of the older guys and people have been around for a while remember the bank and channel days going to DMA and get totally lost, and now they understand DMA and they get lost with the channels and banks. So of course we have a lot of people that are confused with any scanners that doesn't involve crystals.
Yes.
See here. A good online source for NASCAR frequencies. Carmen lives pretty close to the Watkins Glen. I suppose that's some sort of a racetrack or something.
Yes. There are a few websites. Google will be your friend. A lot of times they're spot on. They'll give you a little bit of a structure to be able to program them. But I would strongly recommend if you're going to the racetrack, go to Racing Electronics, the hauler. I think they now charge for that piece of paper $10 now. Yeah. But it's well worth it to be able to confirm the frequencies and then hold on to that paper. A lot of times it doesn't change for that particular track. And then, program those frequencies, run PL tone search. So the second they start talking, program that PL tone or digital PL tone, and then you should be good to go. And then save that programming. So if you frequent the track year after year, likely they may not change the frequencies. The only time that you'll see a big change is if your driver has gone to another team or they added another team to the ownership team. So let's say, I'm just trying to think of, I know Roush Fenway is struggling, but if Roush Fenway adds a third car to the Monster Series, that'll involve some new frequencies for that team.
Cool. Nate says he might have to take a special road trip to hear public safety talking on low band, and then maybe record it for posterity. There's very little low band left around anymore. CHP out here in the West, and then there's a scanner. Charles?
Yeah, there's been a scanner going. It's okay. It's not distracting.
I try to remember the volumes down, but I forget sometimes.
Well, it's the scanner guys, so you should be able to hear the scanner a little bit.
And there's still some fire department operations up east, New York, Pennsylvania, places like that. But yeah, if they're low band now, make recordings of it because it's not going to last. A shout out to our shipping department. He got his email that the 120, that the 100 was back in stock. He called that within a couple hours, got his order number, And by noon, he had the tracking order, and the next day at 5 o'clock, the scanner showed up. So every once in a while, we get it right. So that was one of them. Let's see here.
Joe, I can answer that question. Do NASCAR ever use the same frequency with different tones or codes? As far as I know, they do not. The only time that they use the same frequency is during a non-race event. They will use digital occasionally. They're banned from using digital during the race. Their radios have digital capability, so they may be using one of those frequencies digitally when it's not a race, maybe testing or whatever it may be. But for the most part, each driver has two channels. They have the main channel, and then they have a secondary channel. And basically how that will work is a lot of times the main channel is used for everybody, the crew chief, the driver, and the spotter. And then the secondary channel, some race teams use that for communication in between the spotter and the crew chief. The spotter, depending on the track, will be talking a lot to the driver. So the spotter and the crew chief actually have two radios. So the spotter could be talking over the radio, and the crew chief on the other radio, on the other frequency, is communicating, let him know that he needs to come in and pit in 2 laps. Yep. So he's hearing that through his ear, his headphones, while he's communicating to the driver. And then when he gets a moment, yep, clear. By the way, we need you to come in 2 laps from now to pit. So some teams do it that way. Some of them don't use the secondary frequency. It all depends. But most drivers have 2. And deep dive into NASCAR.
We did that a few months back, didn't we?
Yeah, we usually do it in February. I think our good friend Dale Osborne would be a great guest for that, because he watches NASCAR each and every weekend, and we can talk to him at his point of view, of tips he has at the track. So definitely we'll have Dale on, maybe have him on the deep dive show about NASCAR.
Yeah, absolutely. Question about what model pace scanner was used in the Smokey and Bandit camera car or Trans Am in the Smokey and the Bandit movie, and that was a Pace 10-4U, I think it was, or 10U4. I remember seeing that, and we actually had one of those scanners in the scanning museum, and that was back in the day. Pace had CBs, and they had scanners and other type of mobile electronics, and they were one of those medium brands. There was like Pace and Robin and a couple of those other ones, and eventually they all kind of went away, and now it's just Uniden and Whistler. So, and let's see here. Jonathan needs to show your shack. We see my stuff all the time. We got to see your stuff.
Yeah, mine's in front of me. So.
Okay, there was Joe Atches was a Pace 10-4U. So, and that was again, that movie was back in what, the 70s or something.
Yeah, I mean it was the 70s or 80s. I mean it's a classic. I mean they had, I want to say there was 3 Smokey and the Bandits. There was the first one, the second one, and I can't remember what the third one was. I remember one of them they had. They
were probably Smoking Bandit 1, 2, and 3, right?
Yeah, well, they had one that they were transporting an elephant, and the elephant wasn't feeling well, and like the first one's the most classic with Buford T. Justice, chasing the bandit. The bandit had the son's fiance was supposed to be his wife that day. And I remember, the car being torn off, and hold my hat. He told his son to hold his hat, and
yeah, it's been a long time since I see that. And I remember because that was when I was in high school, and then when that movie came out, everybody had to have Trans Ams,
and it wasn't, from what I understand. I mean, it wasn't one of the top sports cars of the time. There was a lot of issues with the Trans Ams.
Yeah, it was a Pontiac version of the Camaro, and the Camaro had a race version too. It was the Firebird, and then the Trans Am was the race version of the Firebird, and then there was a Camaro, and then there was a race version of the Camaro, and it was always a debate which one was better, but they're basically the same car, as far as I recall. Yeah, and I was a Ford guy, so I had Mustangs.
Yeah, so Joe mentions Joe M, not to be confused with the other Joes. It looks like it was 70s and early 80s, and the Elephant one was Smoking the Bandit 2. And then the famous quote that New York Pixels mentioned: "Daddy, I lost my hat. I hope your head wasn't in it."
Yeah, he was like kind of a idiot, the kid.
Oh yeah, he wasn't the sharpest tool in the sharpest tool in the shed. But yeah, it was quite comical with the, and he was constantly like chasing.
Well, that was the whole idea behind the movie. It was a car chase movie.
Yeah.
So the Todd says the 796D is a very rare scanner these days. Is it still relevant? It is in some areas. Obviously, it works pretty well for analog stuff. As far as P25 stuff, if you have if you have EDEX systems, it works good for P25. It'll work on some P25 systems, but if there's anything on 700 megahertz, and now that things are rebanded, it's going to be of limited usefulness. So if you got a 796 and you got a digital trunking system, it might be time to replace it. Let's see here.
I guess apparently we could do a show about Smokey and the Bandit with his with all the quotes from the movie.
Yeah, or we could do a show on scanners and CBs in the movies. So
yeah, I mean, I watched on Netflix Fargo, the television. They did a television show of the movie. And season 1, the character that was kind of the villain had a BCD 325P2. Was using that to monitor the local police.
Yeah, I like that. The Die Hard movie where they had these ham radios, these magic radios that they could listen to everything they wanted to hear, and then they could talk privately without having to touch anything. It was just
the same radio for everything.
Yeah, exactly. So, Joes, and more Joes. And let's see here. He loves it. Todd loves his 796. They were good radios. The 780s, 85s, and 96 were great on military aircraft. So
yeah, I mean, I still have a 780. I mean, I'm not using it, but yeah, I mean, the 780 was a big favorite of mine. I mean, that was one of the first radios that I had that was base mobile that had alpha tags. The very first radio that I had that had alpha tags was the 246. I loved that radio, the 246. I mean, it was just a great radio. And then, the 780, I had that one.
I love my 780. I had the internal battery pack and nylon carry case for the 780 because they didn't have a handheld scanner that was an equivalent to the 780, and they never did. Wasn't until the 250 came out that they had anything close to it. So
you can watch the scanner guys in the car, in a bar, while riding a goat and while sailing a boat.
Yeah, I can't ride my goat this time of year. It's too hot out. So, let's see here. Might be a good option for a show. The International Space Station satellites. So yeah, and ham satellites. That might be a pretty decent show down the road. Pace make good microphones. I'm assuming that was for like CDs and stuff. The cars for the Smoking Bandits were 77s, 79s, and 80s, so I imagine that was the time frame. Yeah, and that would be about time. That was about the time I was in high school. So
I'm surprised somebody's asked for a marathon show to see how long we could talk about scanners live.
Yeah.
Day 2.
Yeah, day 2 of the Scanner Guys Monster Show.
Yeah. I mean, there's no restriction for us on how long we can go live on YouTube.
Yeah. As long as people are watching.
Yeah. Oh, people be checking in, that's for sure.
Yeah. Let's see here. Beer was was the first movie, I guess, and Elephant was in the second movie. So.
Yeah.
Let's see here. More Smoking the Bandit stuff. You can read the comments to see all that stuff. We'll that was a Kenwood TH21AT was the radio in that Die Hard movie. So, and let's see here, and I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah, we're in overtime right now, 30 minutes over our overtime. I apologize for us going over. We're at 2 hours. But I thank everyone that has stuck around and watched the show. We appreciate you each and every week watching the Scanner Guys. We will make an announcement on our next week's show. And then if you're looking to send in your shack photos, let me post our email address right here. The Scanner Guys Show at Gmail, the Scanner Guys at gmail.com. The Scanner Guys at gmail.com is the email address that you need to send your shack photos to us. When you do send your shack photos, just send us some photos and a little bit about, your shack and what you monitor, and if you want to tell us what state you're from, that is great too. And then we'll post those photos in the slideshow presentation, and we'll be able to show off your shack. So definitely email those over. If we get enough of those, we can put together a whole entire show, and you guys can see your shack right on here. So we're really excited about doing that at some point. The other things that are going on, make sure you give a thumbs up on their video as well. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button on our channel. Subscribe to our channel. We're trying to get to 3,000 subscribers on this channel. We're getting pretty close. If you can also go over to the Train Aficionado Live channel, it's Train Aficionado, and subscribe there as well. We've got some really great programming coming up there. 2 shows next month. Usually we just do the first Monday of the month, so definitely subscribe to the channel. Next week's show, we will be live again Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific, Wednesday, August the 11th, live right here on YouTube. If you've got Roku, Apple TV, or the Amazon Fire Stick, you can download the YouTube app and watch us on the big screen. And of course, you can watch us on any other platform, such as your smartphone, tablet, or computer. So pretty much everywhere. We want to remind you about Train Aficionado Live. As I've already mentioned, we're going to have a special Labor Day show. So if you're home the Monday night, Labor Day, we're going to be talking about the men and women of railroading. We're going to talk about the various jobs that are out there and how it all works. And that'll be Monday, September the 6th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. The following Monday, which will be Monday, September the 13th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Time, we're going to have the owners of rail streams. If you've caught their videos, their live streams of locations along popular railroad lines, and you can do some rail fanning from the comfort of your home. They own one of the bigger companies that are out there that are providing streams to you folks out there. They do have some free cameras that you can watch. If you've got one of those smart TVs, you can download the Railstream app and you can watch some of their camera feeds. They got some really good locations. So definitely we're going to have them on the show and talk to them about how they started. And it's a husband and wife team, so it's pretty cool. Follow, like, and subscribe to the Train Aficionado social media, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. Check out the blog at trainaficionado.com. And as always, please subscribe to the channel as well. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers there, so if you can subscribe to the channel, we'd greatly appreciate it. And last but not least, make sure you give the Scanner Guys some love. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram at Scanner Guys. We would love that as well. And then, of course, check out our website, thescannerguyshow.com. And as always, we want to thank our sponsor, Scanner Master, each and every week for helping us getting this show on the air. And we appreciate everyone that's gone to thescannerguyshow.com and bought some swag. That also helps us as well. And if you're looking to purchase anything, please Scanner-wise, visit Scanner Master. Hit the affiliate link down in the bottom of this video in the description. If you purchase something there, we get a small little chunk of the sale. Not a chunk, I would say, but we get a little bit of sliver of that. So we appreciate that as well. Rich, anything else that you want to add? I think you're probably going to tell people the 125AT, order it now while Scanner Master has it.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to get one, make sure you get it quickly because they are hard to get from our distributors, and we do sell them very quickly. And that goes with a lot of scanners. But the 125 is such a popular radio, and once they're gone, we're going to get more, but it might be months. So right now everything is really kind of topsy turvy in the supply end of things. So if you want one, get one. Do it.
Yeah, I mean the 125AT was so popular that we did a whole show tonight about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks, Steve. Steve bought his with our affiliate link, and we do appreciate that. And I know we've gone down 2 in stock since the show started. So hopefully they were both people from here. And don't forget that affiliate link down below.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Once again, thank you so much for everybody becoming a part of the Scanner Guys community. We appreciate all of you joining us each and every week. And we hope to catch you again next week during our live show. And if you're watching this on the replay, we appreciate you as well, for taking time out of your day to watch our show. So we appreciate that. That's going to do it for us, I guess. I'm Jonathan Higgins.
I'm Rich Carlson.
Have a great and safe week. We will catch you again next Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific, live right here on YouTube.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.